my speech I give all my students in all my clinics, I say there's 3 rules to the music business. I say number 1 is very easy. Show up on time, which means show up early and prepared. You have to be early if you're, especially you're a brass player, you got to be warmed up and you got to be ready when that downbeat hits so you'll be relaxed and ready to play. Number 2, you got to be nice. You got to be cool. You got to be friendly. You have to be a nice person. If you aren't that, you're not going to get the next job. And if you're late, you're not going to get the next job. So those 2 things, if you don't do them, you will not be hired the next time. Number 3 is the hard one. You got to be a badass musician. You got to be really at the top. You have to have some strength where you stand out, and you have to really be able to cover everything that comes your way musically. And that's the hardest one to accomplish because that takes years and years and years of practice, study, and experience.
Andy Martin emerged as one of the leading trombonists in all of Hollywood, but how did he get there and what led to his success? Strap on as we learn how someone pulled off any Hollywood instrumentalist's biggest dream. Welcome to the Trombone channel. This is the life of Andy Martin. If you guys want to support the creation of these videos, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber or buying any of my merch linked below. I also have a Discord server if any of you want to chat with me. I also have a subreddit for you to share articles about the history of the trombone that could be useful in a future video. Andy Martin was born to a musical family on August 10, 1960 in Provo, Utah, as the youngest of 3 brothers. Shortly after, his family moved to San Francisco, and then when he was 8 and a half, they moved again to Los Angeles. Music first came to Andy through his dad, David Martin, who plays trumpet, also the founder of Hayward La Honda Music Camp back in 1962. When Andy was in 5th grade, it was time for him to pick up an instrument.
My oldest brother plays trumpet. My middle brother plays saxophone. I wanted to play drums, but then my parents weren't too thrilled about that. I then chose clarinet, which is my middle brother. We're only 1 grade apart in school, so they thought there would be too much competition between the 2 of us. So then I chose trumpet, like my father and my oldest brother.
About 2 years later, he was sitting in the trumpet section of a band and noticed how good the trombone sounded, so he picked up the trombone. He quickly realized that the trombone was a better fit for him, so he made that his primary instrument. And he continued to play trumpet until his early 20s when he realized that playing the trumpet hampered his tone on the trombone. Andy attended Millikan High School in Long Beach, where he played in numerous ensembles including 2 jazz bands, concert band, orchestra, and was the section leader in marching band. As lead trombonist of the first jazz band, he attended the Monterey Jazz Festival where he won the award for Best Trombone Solo. He also auditioned for the All-State Jazz Orchestra where he got 3rd trombone. Andy also played baseball in high school where he was the starting shortstop. The deciding factor between his 2 passions was that his baseball coach sucked, whereas his band director was better. His love for baseball never went away as he is to this day a lifetime supporter of the San Francisco Giants. When it came time for Andy to attend college, the jazz director from Fresno State University wanted Andy to attend there, except he didn't want to live in Fresno. Instead, he went to Golden West College, a community college located in Huntington Beach, where Tom Kupis was the jazz instructor. He then attended Long Beach State University, but before he finished his degree, he heard about an audition at the last minute for a full-time job playing at Disneyland with a Dixieland band called the Jazz Miners. As a fan of bebop, Andy didn't know much about the Dixieland style of playing, so he asked his dad, who was a Dixieland player himself, who gave him Jack Teagarden records to listen to. After the audition, Andy won his first full-time playing job at just the age of 18. When Andy took the job at Disneyland, he dropped out of college, knowing full well he could have stayed there and got a degree. He did this because he was confident in his playing abilities and felt ready to take on the music business. You never went back to college?
No, I never did, no.
So you just have a high school diploma?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody because we're in a different day and age here. where you need a degree and you need to be versatile in order to make it in the music business.
After almost 2 years of playing at Disneyland, Andy got a 3-week tour with the blues singer Lou Rawls. After the tour was over, Andy was unemployed since he left working at Disneyland. What happened for the next 10 years was a combination of touring with other musicians as well as working in Los Angeles. Andy also took trombone lessons with Roy Main and jazz lessons with Charlie Shoemaker. Roy Main ended up teaching Andy how to play bass trombone because Andy learned if he was called to play bass when he couldn't, they would just call someone else. years. Andy first toured with the Sinatra-style singer Paul Anka for a year. Then he joined Les Brown's Band of Renown, a big band that formed during World War II. This was also the band that was featured on the Bob Hope Show, which is how Andy got his first professional recording experiences. Andy then rejoined Paul Anka and toured with him for 4 more years. After that was over, he was going to stop touring until Pancho Sanchez, a Latin jazz singer, recruited him to tour with him for almost 2 years. After touring with Pancho Sanchez, Andy finally stopped touring. He was now 32 years old and had decided to plant himself in Los Angeles to work as a full-time freelance trombonist.
In the music business in Hollywood, it takes a long time to prove yourself, and you have to prove yourself every single time, and you have to do the job every single time. But what happened after this 5 years of traveling in that period of my life, I was so sick of traveling. I was just absolutely sick of getting on airplanes and getting on the bus after the gig. And I realized how much time I was wasting, that I couldn't practice or I couldn't work on my craft. I decided that traveling and it wasn't getting me anywhere in the business either, because I wasn't mixing with other players. I was mixing with mainly these people in these bands.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a versatile, well-rounded trombone player, and I wanted to work other gigs, and I wanted to work with better players, and I wanted to just do different things.
Ever since the 1990s, Andy has been heavily involved in the recording scene throughout Los Angeles, playing in countless movies and TV shows, as well as with jazz bands around the country. His massive success on the trombone has taken him all the way up to playing in the Oscars. Around the turn of the century, he partnered with Yamaha and has played their horns ever since.
I remember this specifically, that my first take was the best take, and the one you heard was probably the second or third take. So that's usually the case when you're playing jazz. I always feel I play my best the very first time around.
Jimmy, come on, give it to me.
Just me?
Just you, Jimmy, come on. You were not doing that a second ago. That was great. Please do that again.
You got it.
Beautiful, Jimmy. I bowed down, Jimmy. All right, let's do that section again, you guys.
On Christmas Day 2020, Pixar, one of the world's best animation studios, released Soul on Disney+. The movie takes place in present-day New York City, where Joe Gardner, a jazz instructor, is conducting a horrible middle school jazz ensemble. As the song progressed, a girl named Connie performs a solo on trombone.
But they wanted me to be the trombone soloist because they didn't get what they wanted, obviously, out of a junior high school player. They needed something just sonically better. They just needed something different than what they had.
Yeah.
Right? So I stayed after the session when we did the bad playing. So they had, okay, Andy, we want you to stay. We want you to sound like a middle school trombone player on this solo, but a real good one. You know, like you have some ability, but we can't have it sound too good. We can't have it sound too bad, because we need it to sound at least with some quality to it, you know, because this is a good student. It's not a bad student. The second solo, I was instructed to play the same way. Play like a middle school, but play like somebody who just improved from that other solo.
Someone who went home and worked on something, you know?
Yeah, and they really want to be a musician and have musical aspirations, and they really have it in them to do it.
I was practicing this one thing yesterday, and maybe you can listen to it and tell me to quit after, okay?
Okay.
was a real quick session. And to tell you the truth, Jack, I forgot that I had done this session. And Alex Isles texted me and goes, "Hey man, did you play in a movie called Soul? Did you do the trombone solos?" And I'm going, I don't think so. What? Why? It's for this guy, John Batiste. He was the leader. And I'm going, Alex, I don't remember. And he goes, okay, let me check. And I said, I know John Batiste uses these other two trombone players too. And so he checked with them and they said, no, I didn't do it. And then he texted me back and goes, Andy, listen to this. He had gotten the two solos and put them on a YouTube thing, whatever, and said, listen to this. And I said, as soon as I heard it, I go, oh yeah, that's me. Okay. But I said, Alex, but I don't remember where it was recorded. I remember doing this, but I don't remember where, and I can't picture it in my mind. He goes, Sunset Sound. And I go, now I remember. That's what it was. Okay, with the cameras on me. I honestly had forgotten, because you don't know what you're doing sometimes when you're recording a project. You just know that you want to do your best and it's another gig, and you leave and move on to the next, go on to the next gig. And so with that being said, finally I jogged my memory and I remembered that I did do that. And all of a sudden it just blew up on Facebook. It just blew up on social media.
Despite Andy's involvement in Soul, he was never credited for his work. That is, even despite listing the middle school band used in the movie. The reason for this glaring omission was simply because they forgot about him. Fortunately, a resolution between the musicians and producers requiring all musicians to be credited has since passed, except Soul was already well into production. When it comes to trombone, Pixar's Soul accomplished two things. First, this is the most extensive use of a trombone in an animated feature film. And second, this was the very first instance of a woman playing a trombone in animation.
I wasn't surprised or shocked or anything that it was a girl. I was happy. It was like, oh, this is a really cool thing that they're doing.
Inspirational.
They're inspirational for a lot of different people, for men and women, especially women that want to play and think that they can do this and see obstacles in front of them, stopping them from doing it. And there shouldn't be any obstacles, because I know a lot of great women trombone players, fantastic, that could easily fill the roles that are done by men. I've had a lot of great messages on Facebook about, hey, you inspired me. I hope my daughter grows. She was inspired when she saw the scene and blah, 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 blah. And how inspirational this is going to be for some teacher students or some person's daughter or some person that just started the trombone. I had one message from, I think it was a young girl trombonist, and she said, I was going to quit trombone, but now this inspired me to keep on playing, and I really want to play because I love playing the trombone. And I have moments like that first scene when she falters and gets embarrassed. That made me stop playing. But now I know that I can recover from this, and I'm encouraged by the scenes that I can play, that I can do this, and I really want to do it. So when you get a message like that, that just makes it all worthwhile. It's just like, a small moment in my life becomes a big moment in somebody else's life, which is just super, super moving. It's great.
If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more content coming soon. The link to my interview with Andy Martin is in the description. I will see you in the next one.